Hi and welcome to another narration, presented by yours truly, Cryptids Roost. Let's just take a moment's silence for all the haters. That's enough. Be sure to check out the blooper reel at the end of the video, which is then followed by the end screen where you will find more videos listed. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. The Monster Under the Bed, Part 1. This awesome two-part series is written by Corpse Child. I think most, if not all of us, had a time in our lives when we used to be afraid of the monster under the bed, or the thing in the closet. That time when everything would be just fine until the lights went out, where we then begged mummy or daddy to snuggle up with them that night. Oh, for a while they'd humour you and let you sleep in their bed. Eventually though, they'd of course have to stop allowing this, leading to them feeding you all that too familiar line, "There's no such thing as the monster under your bed." What did you do then? Did you used to cry, maybe show your ass, until they relented out of sheer exhausted desperation? Did you refuse to sleep, forcing your parents to put you on prescription medications? Maybe you used to cocoon yourself in the blankets to keep from being seen when the monster came out, right? Let me ask you this. What was your monster like? Was it covered in fur? Or have green, scaly, snake-like skin? Did it have drooling fangs or large curved talons? Did it used to growl and scratch your bedpost at night to tease you into pissing the bed? Did you ever actually see it? Of course not, right? I mean, like your parents told you, there's no such thing as the monster under your bed, right? Well, I wouldn't know. See, I'm just going off of speculation with all of that. Yeah, I too had the problem of a monster under the bed, but mine was very different. Mine was actually real, far too real. I'll say right now that this has stuck with me for years, ever since that night. That was the night I learnt that the monster was real and more haunting than anything my pre-teen brain at the time could have conjured up. It's affected my entire perception of life, of morality, and of the world in general. I've been seeing my therapist since middle school about it, because of the way my mind has been so fucked by it all. I'd recounted this story to him at least 10,000 times now, and now on his belief that writing it all out may make it a little easier a pill to finally swallow, here I am telling this to you. For a while growing up I lived with my Aunt Mabel. I'd always been told that my folks were killed in a car accident when I was 4, and I didn't really remember much about them before that night. I remember that night too, seeing the blue flashing lights outside the kitchen window while I was making a mess of my spaghetti and meatballs at the dinner table. My grandma was babysitting me that night, letting them go out for a date night, and was baking her warm, soft, homemade cookies for dessert when it all happened. I remember Grandma telling me to go to my room until she said I could come back out. I was confused. I didn't understand what I'd done wrong. She said that everything was okay, that I just needed to wait in my room for a minute and we'd have cookies afterwards. I remember peeking out from my room when she opened the door, seeing a tall police officer on the porch with his hat on his chest. I saw Grandma start crying, not knowing at all why. I wanted to beat up that police officer for making my grandma cry. I remember bolting out screaming, "Get away from my grandma, you big bully!" punching and kicking feebly at his legs. Grandma pulled me away and hugged me close. "Are you okay, Grandma? Why are you crying? What did that mean man do?" I just remember Grandma squeezing me tighter and tighter to her, whispering, "I'm so sorry, Timmy. God, I'm so sorry." "What's wrong, Grandma?" "Hey there, buddy," I heard another police officer say. "Why don't we go into the living room and talk for a sec? Just you and me." I clutched onto Grandma, but she urged me to follow the officer into the living room. "Go on, Timmy, it's okay," she softly whispered, her voice broken. I slowly let go of her and followed the officer into the living room. We sat down on the couch in the living room and she smiled, asking my name. "Timothy," I answered quietly, sheepishly. "Well, it's nice to meet you, Timothy. I'm Officer Harriet." "Now, Timothy, do you know what police officers do?" I nodded blankly. "You catch the bad guys, right? Like Superman or Batman?" "That's right. Very good," she said, smiling warmly. "But we also have to protect the good guys, like you and your parents." I looked at her, my young eyes entrapped by her warm, tender smile. I barely registered her voice as she spoke because of this. She also asked me if I knew what the ambulance does. I gave her more or less the same answer, that they made the boo-boos get better, just like mommy kisses. Are my mommy and daddy okay? I think even back then, I still noticed something was up with her face when I asked this. I remember seeing the way it sort of sunk, as if in hesitation, before putting that tender smile back on. I knew this meant she was having to think about what exactly to say to me. Finally, she spoke up, telling me that there was a bad car accident and that my parents were hurt very bad and that they'd been taken to the hospital. "But the hospital's gonna make their boo-boos go away, right?" I'll never forget the look she had on her face in that moment. It was a look that, though I wouldn't have understood at the time, still left a mark on me, and one I'd learned the meaning of all too well later in life. The plastic smile. The smile that said, "How in the name of God am I supposed to tell this kid, this sweet little boy, that things weren't okay, that there might not be a happy ending here?" She ruffled my hair and said that the nurses and doctors at the hospital were gonna do everything they could. About a minute later, Grandma came in and Officer Harriet left. Grandma just held me close to her like before, and we just sat in silence for a while, save only for her soft weeping. "Grandma, I want to see Mommy and Daddy. Can we go see them?" She looked at me, eyes still flooding with tears. "First thing in the morning, okay? I promise." I wasn't happy with this, but I didn't want to push any further and risk upsetting Grandma more. So we just sat there on the couch, her gently rocking me back and forth until eventually, probably out of sheer exhaustion, she fell asleep. I didn't sleep that night though. I just curled up in Grandma's arms, eyes wide, wanting nothing more than to see my mother and father again. As promised, the next morning we went to the hospital. That was another first for me, seeing the inside of the hospital. I remember looking around, seeing mostly older folks hooked up with oxygen tubes and wires, as well as others who were in full body casts and slings. Seeing all of this, I remember feeling panicked chills shoot straight through me, fearing what I'd see when we got to my parents' room. When we got to the room, there she was, my mother, fast asleep. She was hooked up to several machines herself, and I could hear her steady, yet still somewhat irregular breaths as her chest very slowly rose and fell. I saw that her face, arms and legs were covered in a bunch of cuts and bruises. "Mommy," I murmured, shaking her arm. "Mommy, wake up." When she wouldn't wake up, I shook her harder until eventually Grandma had to pull me away, still squealing. "Tim." Her voice was faint, weak, but I heard it. "Mommy!" I exclaimed, breaking free of Grandma and rushing to her again. Her eyes opened very limply, like there were lead weights hanging from them, and she slowly lolled her head over to the side to see me. Me. "Mommy, are you okay?" Her face was blank, almost completely devoid of life, and her voice was little more than a rasping whisper. I saw her hand limply rise up to touch my face. Her fingers felt like feathers brushing weightlessly across my face. "Me. What's wrong, Mommy? Where's Dad?" I was confused. I was scared. Most of all, I just wanted my mother and father and to go home. Her eyes began to close again, one last time, whispering, My Tim, me." I immediately began shaking her again, squealing, "Mommy!" This time, she didn't wake up. Once again, Grandma pulled me away and we left the room while a group of nurses went in. I was already well into the waterworks by that point, and I asked Grandma, "What about Dad?" She hugged me before giving me $2 and telling me to go get myself a treat or two from the vending machine while she asked one of the nurses. I didn't want to, but I obeyed and went to the vending machines for a honey bun and an apple juice. I wasn't really hungry, so just sat there nibbling pitifully at the honey bun while sniffing, wondering what was happening. How in one instant my world was being twisted and turned every which way but loose. When I found Grandma again, she was crying in the arms of one of the doctors, while two others rolled a large metal table with something big covered by a white sheet out of the room she was in. "What happened, Grandma? Where's Dad? Is he okay?" "Oh, Timmy," she bawled, squeezing me in a rough bear hug. "I'm so sorry." My eyes flooded instantly, looking over my shoulder at the doctors pushing the metal table down the hall. Though I didn't really understand much regarding the actual concept of death at the time, I still was unfortunate enough to understand the bitter fact that I wasn't going to see my father ever again. What made it worse was that something told me the same wasn't long to happen for my mother. We didn't stay at the hospital long after that. We went back to the house and Grandma told me to pack some clothes and a few toys in my little Batman backpack, telling me that I was going to be staying with her for a little while until my mother could come home again. Normally I'd have jumped for joy at that, being able to go to Grandma's for an extended stay, but not then. At that time I would have killed just to stay home and have my mother there with me instead. 5 minutes later we were heading to her house. She prepared the blankets and a few pillows on the couch for me, like she always did. This allowed me to stay up late watching TV. Again, usually something I usually enjoyed doing. Though it's because of this habit that I'd see the beginning of a sequence of events that would change my life forever. About 2 weeks had passed by then, visiting my mother every day, and me and my grandma were staying up watching cartoons one evening. Suddenly the phone rang and Grandma answered. After a while, Grandma turned the channel from Power Rangers to Channel 5 News. I was, of course, bewildered, but Grandma hushed me when I tried to protest. On the TV was the scene of a burning building, a burning hospital building to be exact. Below was a headline: "Arson attack devastates local hospital." Grandma put her hand over her mouth and began to sob loudly. This had me in yet another confused tailspin. "Grandma, what's wrong? What's going on? Grandma, what's wrong? What's going on?" I got no answer from this though. She was in absolute hysterics, and she got up and bolted to the bathroom, leaving me alone on the couch. I just sat there confused and scared at the same time, watching the burning building on the TV. I don't remember much details about what all exactly was said, but I do distinctly remember hearing that while they were able to evacuate most of the patients, some were trapped and others were missing. It was when they zoomed in on the bright red cross with a smiley face that I finally realised what I was seeing. The burning hospital was the same one Mama was in. My mind was frozen, blank almost, utterly overclocked with everything that was occurring all at once. I wasn't sure what I should do. Should I scream, cry, run out of the house thinking I was going to save Mommy? Was Mommy even there? Was she one of the ones they managed to evacuate, or was she missing too? All of this and about 10,000 other thoughts and ideas flooded my brain like a burst dam. Eventually the tears did come and I curled up into a ball under my blanket. I just laid there crying, thoughts of seeing my mother covered in flames stabbing at my mind. Then I decided to do one last thing, something I remember Grandma always telling me to do when I was upset or scared. Under the covers I shifted to my knees and put my hands together. "God, if you can hear me, please bring my mommy back. If you do, I'll promise I'll always be a good boy and I'll never do anything bad again for as long as I live. Please." I remember just silently crying myself to sleep that night. The next morning I woke up to find that Grandma still hadn't come back to the couch. "Grandma!" I called out. When I got no answer, I got up and went around the house, calling out louder. After scouring just about the entire house top to bottom, I finally had the thought to actually check the last place I saw her go, the bathroom. When I opened the door, my first reaction was confusion. Grandma was lying on the floor of the bathroom in front of the bathtub, out cold. "What is she doing asleep on the floor?" I wondered. "Grandma," I said, shaking her gently. She didn't move. That's when I noticed her chest wasn't moving. Slowly panic started rushing through me again as I started shaking her harder and harder, calling out, "Grandma! Grandma! Wake up!" When I couldn't get her to wake up, I rushed to the phone and dialed 911, telling them as best as I could that something was wrong with my grandmother. They told me to stay on the phone, and about 15 minutes later the ambulance arrived. I watched them check Grandma's body for any vital signs before then lifting her onto and wheeling her out on a gurney into the back of the ambulance. A lot of what happened after that is kinda blurry to me, indistinct in a way, in that I can't really remember many of the details outside of the highlights. I do, of course, remember Officer Harriet being there again, and I remember her being the one that gave me the ride to the hospital across town, where they'd also relocated the patients from the other hospital too. I also remember that it wasn't long before the doctors were explaining to me that Grandma didn't make it, which then led to Officer Harriet explaining to me that I was going to be staying with my aunt, who was on her way. The last big detail from that time I actually remember was bawling in Officer Harriet's arms, telling her that I didn't want to stay with my aunt, that I wanted my mother to come back. It was soon after that Aunt Mabel came to pick me up. I didn't get to bring anything with me except what was in my Batman backpack. She lived in the next town over, far away from everything I knew before, in a large 2-story house that was secluded at least a 10-minute drive away from the nearest shopping centres. From there, most of this is history. I started the following year, slowly grew up, and was raised solely by my aunt. Sure enough, for the next part, I grew up just fine. I made friends at school, got good grades, and kept my nose clean. In other words, in spite of everything that happened before, I was happy. Life was okay for me. In fact, it wasn't too much longer before I started to essentially forget about my mother, including what she even looked like. I've tried to figure out for a while now how I managed that. The best conclusion I could come up with was that perhaps either because I was still so little at the time, or out of some sort of defence mechanism, I just forgot almost entirely who the woman that gave birth to me was. Anytime I was asked who my mother was, I just gave them Aunt Mabel's name. She was the one who took care of me, who raised me, so she was the one I'd call Mom. Like I said, life with Aunt Mabel was okay. She was cool enough, if not a little too cool sometimes. She'd often spoil me when I wasn't expecting it, like the times I'd come home from school to find that she wasn't home, and to find that she'd gone out for the night and wouldn't be back until much later. The TV would already be on cartoons, and there'd be a wide array of my favourite snacks spread out for me, along with some cash and coupons for pizza for dinner. This usually only happened once in a while, and only on Friday nights. Then over time, this became a more frequent occurrence. She'd stay out for longer and longer periods of time, nights and days at a time even, and it even started happening during the week too. Sure, even then I found it odd, and I did start wondering where she was. But my curiosity never lasted long. Hell, the way I saw it, I was living the dream. I had the house to myself and I could do what I wanted. Eventually though, these instances stopped occurring and things were normal again. Well, almost. It was around this time it started happening, that I started hearing the monster. I was 11 by then, and I was in the 5th grade. In other words, by that point you'd think I'd have been long past the point in my life where I'd be scared to sleep with the lights off, right? That I'd be past the whole monster under the bed paranoia, right? Well, one night I was all cozied up in my bed, lights out and everything, when I started hearing noises from under my bed. They were faint and I thought I was just hearing things at first. Soon I started hearing what sounded like thumping from under my bed. It sounded almost like someone was taking a hammer to the wooden floor beneath me. This was a bit harder for me to pass off. In spite of this, I just did my best to ignore it and go to sleep. Then I heard the noise again, louder and a little more distinct this time. I couldn't really describe it in any way, except maybe the howling or screeching of a hyena that's somehow being stifled or muffled. It sounded demented, inhuman in a way, in my mind at least. I was confused. What was making that sound? One of my first instincts was maybe it was Aunt Mabel. Perhaps she'd hurt herself or something, or maybe she was on the phone in a heated conversation with someone. A conversation that, by the sound of it, wasn't going well for the other side. But listening more and more, I realised that the noises sounded nothing like Aunt Mabel. As they got louder from underneath me, so too did the thumping noises. It now sounded like the footsteps of a stampeding elephant, and I began imagining something huge, like some large beast coming straight for me. Reflexively, I threw the covers over my head and huddled into a ball, closing my eyes and repeating, "It's not real, it's not real, it's not real." The thumping and muffled shrieks only got louder from underneath me. I started imagining that someone or something was about to burst up from below me and pull me down into the bed or something. That's when I bolted from my bed and out of my bedroom and into the bathroom across the hall. I could still hear the thumping faintly behind me as I ran, imagining that whatever it was crawling out and about to give chase. Sure enough, I made it to the bathroom and immediately shut the door, unlocking it before huddling in the bathtub. I spent the rest of that night like that, quivering in the bathtub, hoping to God the monster, or whatever it was, didn't come crashing through the door. I was half expecting to hear scratching noises, or maybe a series of crashes of it attempting to batter the door down or something. But neither was the case, and eventually, at some point, I actually managed to fall asleep. Right there in the bathtub. The next morning I woke with a start when I heard knocking at the bathroom door. "Timothy Barnes, open this door, right now!" As quickly as my still half asleep legs could carry me, I shambled out of the bathtub and opened the door. Aunt Mabel was standing in the doorway, still in her underwear, with bedhead, eyes wide and red-faced. "What in the name of God in heaven are you doing in the bathroom, and why was the door locked?" By that time I'd learned that from the tone of her voice I knew damn well I only had about 2 seconds to come up with some sort of answer. I stammered, my mind still not having fully awakened. Monster thumping under my bed." Her eyebrows cocked in confusion. "A monster?" Yeah, there was a monster thumping under my bed." I felt like a weenie saying that, even back then, and I was fully expecting her to flip her shit at me, willing me to cut the BS and grow up, you know? But that's not what happened. Instead, I saw a new look wash across her face. A look that I wouldn't have gotten at the time, but understood all too well now, looking back. It was the look that she said she knew something, that she knew that I wasn't making this up. "What did the monster look like?" I looked at her now, me being the confused one. I don't know. I didn't see it." "What did it tell you?" "What?" I asked, completely lost. What did it matter? "It didn't say anything. It was thumping and crying under my bed." "Crying?" "Yeah, it sounded like it was crying." She nodded, a stone-cold serious expression chiselled on her face. Finally she sighed, and her serious expression was replaced with a warm smile as she ruffled my hair. "Don't worry, I'll handle it," she assured with a wink. She said this with that same sweet voice you typically expect to hear parents saying this to a kid 3 years younger than I was. "Go on, get dressed while I make breakfast." By that point, I was so dumbfounded that I didn't even bother trying to protest this treatment in any way. I guess part of me even then was dubious as to why she was taking this whole situation so well. Like I said, I fully expected her to discredit everything I was saying, telling me quit being such a baby or something. I mean, I was even telling myself that, but she seemed to actually believe me. That said, without another word, I just decided to do what I was told and get ready for school. Of course, with most of my night spent as restless as it was, I was very slow getting ready, even almost missing the bus, and I was barely functional at school too. All day the only thing I could really think about was the noises under my bed. So much so that I couldn't even concentrate at all in class, and just my fucking luck too, it was test day. Unfortunately, this wouldn't go unnoticed. At lunch, Wendy, my crush at the time, of all people, sat across from me and asked if everything was okay. Naturally, I tried to bluff, telling her everything was fine and that I just stayed up too late watching cartoons. She wasn't stupid though, and though she didn't press me, I knew she wasn't buying it. She just cocked her eyebrows and rolled her eyes before taking her tray and moving over to another table with the other girls in my class. I felt like a chump, of course, and it's not like I wanted to lie like that, but what was I supposed to say? "The monster under my bed was trying to get me last night and I had to sleep in the bathtub." Would you have believed that? Or would you have thought I was spouting some hyper-imaginative bullshit? I say this to say that I was still unsure of what happened the previous night. And of course, Aunt Mabel's assurance only served to confuse the hell out of me more. What did she mean by handling it? Sure, some parents will say stuff like that to placate their child, to make them feel better. Some might even show some big demonstration or give them something like a nightlight or special object, claiming it'll drive the monster away. But this was different. The way Aunt Mabel said it, with such conviction, almost like she knew something. I tried not to dwell on this any longer though. The way I figured, one way or another, this was a one-off occurrence. Monster or not, everything would be fine. I'd get some sleep that night and everything would be normal again. And the whole thing would be something I would look back on and laugh at, going, wow, I was such a gullible kid back then, wasn't I? Well, looking back, I wish to God I was just a gullible kid. And I hope you all enjoy the blooper reel. That was the night I learned that the monster was real and more haunting than any... That was the night I learned that the monster was real and more haunting than anything my pre-teen brain at the time could have conjured up. I saw Grandma start crying and not knowing at all. I saw Grandma start crying, not knowing at all why. I slowly let go of her and followed the officer into the living room. Finally, she spoke up, telling me that there was a bad... Finally, she spoke up, telling me that there was a bad car accident and that my parents were hurt very bad and that they'd been taken to the hospital. I wasn't happy with this, but I didn't want to push my luck. I wasn't happy with this, but I didn't want to push any further and risk upsetting Grandma more. Once again, Grandma pulled me away and we left the room while a group of nurses went in. It was soon after that Aunt Mabel came to pick me up. As quickly as my still half asleep legs could carry me, I shambled out of the bathtub and opened the door. Hey family, please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to chokehold that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. And by subscribing you'll be the first to see all of our new spooky creepypasta stories. A very big thank you to Corpse Child for allowing me to narrate this awesome series. Make sure to check out Corpse Child's Reddit for more brilliant stories. Also be sure to check out the Corpse Child playlist here for more of their stories that I have already narrated. I would just like to say a very big thank you to all of the authors that I've worked with and all the ones that I will work with in the future. So thank you all, my brothers and sisters. And why not hashtag cryptidsroost in your comments. If you would like to support the channel, I have an account at buymeacoffee.com. You can send your coffee donations, big or small, to that site. Link is below. Or via paypal.me/cryptidsroost. You can also support us on Ko-Fi. The link for that will also be below. And don't forget to check out the end screen. See above. That will also list some more videos in my back catalogue. Take care everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful and peaceful night. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.